Hey, yo, what up? Welcome back. There's not a podcast. It's just my thoughts with Markman. This show is still taking form. Sometimes it's news. Sometimes it's lyric breakdown. Sometimes it's reaction. Sometimes it's a bit of drama. Sometimes it's just me sharing something that inspired me and just wanting to get on the same page with y'all, right? I did something similar to when I saw Pharrell, the Piece by Piece movie, the Lego movie, which I thought was great. And I was just like, man, I just want more people to see this. So I came up here and shared it. So over this weekend, I saw another music documentary, Luther, Never Too Much, directed by Dawn Porter. It's a CNN. It's on CNN. So I think you can still catch it on demand. I think it came out January 1st. So a lot of people had seen it already and they replayed it this weekend and I finally caught it. And man, it was fantastic, man. If y'all haven't seen it, just if you love music, like I really, really recommend it. I think it's just an amazing music story. Now, I got put on to Luther as a kid, just my mom playing his records in the crib. Whether it was records that she bought from him that she would play over and over again, or records from, Kiss FM. She used to stay, if you lived in New York City in the 80s and 90s, Kiss FM was like the premier R&B station. So Kiss FM stayed on in my house all day. And my mom would always play music. So, listening to Luther reminds me of my mom. So, the and I thought I knew him because he was big in the 80s, he was big in the 90s, even into the 2000s when he got his first number one. Luther was a big deal, and I thought all there was to know, but I never researched. He was one of those artists who was just always there, right, and always present. And I didn't know he had a life before, like a career, like he was big before the 80s. So this documentary talks about his beginnings as a kid and what I see, how he fell in love with music. Talks about him being on Sesame Street. He was a singer on Sesame Street from early on. I'm like, yo, I never knew that. That's crazy. He sung with David Bowie on the Young Americans album. There's footage of Bowie in the documentary really just singing Luther's praises, and you could tell the admiration that he had for a young Luther. You know what I'm saying? Luther Vandross toured with Bette Midler. I didn't know that. He wrote on the Wiz soundtrack. I didn't know that. They talked about him linking with Nile Rodgers and Chic and how he sung on so many of those early Chic records. I didn't know that he had vocals on Everybody Dance or The Freak, I Want Your Love. Like he has vocal credits on all of these joints. And these are big records. These are huge records. I know if it's before your time or if you don't go that far back in the music, it's hard to understand. But Chic was huge. Obviously David Bowie, huge. Bette Midler, huge. Talked about him being a member of the group Change, but desperately not wanting to just be a lead singer of a group where somebody else wrote songs for him to sing. But he wanted to write and produce his own stuff, and he did. He wrote and he produced for himself. He wrote and produced for others. They showed old commercials. He was writing jingles, and his voice is so distinct. They played a Juicy Fruit commercial, and you could hear his voice. I wish I could play it for y'all, but I'm gonna put the link for the Juicy Fruit thing in the description, man. Y'all can check it out. It's kind of crazy. They talked about then. He's singing background vocals. He was a session musician, so he's singing for people who's going on tour with people. He's singing background for Roberta Flack on tour with her, and she fires him so he can actually go concentrate on his own solo career. And then, that leads into him doing his hit single Never Too Much, which was also the name of his first album, and dropping that in 1981. And basically how he was the hottest dude in music. Talked about him really wanting the number one record, him really wanting a Grammy, him fighting for black artists to get the crossover budgets that white artists had. There were people with 3 times the budget as him, and who he was just as talented as. But it talked about, especially then, in record labels, how black artists were regulated to just black music, black radio stations, and then the budgets were smaller and stuff like that. But he was fighting for bigger budgets within his label. He was fighting for more exposure. Like Luther was also very much in tune to the business. Talked about him then, his personal struggles, right? Him fighting his issues with weight. If you know Luther, if you know his story, his weight was always in the headlines. It was a big issue for him constantly being criticized about his weight. You've heard the jokes, the big Luther, little Luther. There was rumors about him having HIV. There was rumors about him being dead when he was alive and well. There was so much speculation on his sexuality. you know, it just all of that, and how the media kind of just fixated on these things, right? And how that affected him personally. Then the covers. When you think about Luther, a lot of Luther songs that we know and love are covers. Like, to me, partly because of my age, I just assumed Superstar was his song, but the Carpenters did it first. A House Is Not a Home. I knew A House Is Not a Home was a Dionne Warwick cover, but this thing about Luther, if you look up the songs that he actually covered, 9 out of 10 times, if Luther covered your song, it was his song now. Like, he'd just take over your record. He'll do your record better than you. So a song like Superstar, until I watched this doc, I always thought it was a Luther record. I didn't know there was another version, and the Carpenters did it. So, for me, and I consider myself somebody who knows something like a lot about music. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. But, I watched this and I learned something. So I encourage y'all to check it out. I walked away from the doc with three feelings, and I'll leave y'all with this. One, it just made me think of my mom, who is still with us, but my mom just played music throughout the house all the time. Kiss FM records that she would buy. Luther was a big part of that, so heard his records all throughout his childhood. Two, it made me wish that I seen him live just one time. The show looked incredible. Like, I should have, I should have got my money up, got a ticket, man, took my mom's on a date or something like that, you know what I'm saying, to go see Luther. That'd have been special. That'd have been a special memory. But he looked like an amazing performer, just watching this doc and seeing all the performance footage of him. And lastly, it made me think about media. And even how it relates to the work that I'm doing now, but how media was so unkind to him. The constant talk about his weight, the constant criticism about his weight, the constant speculation about his sexuality, the rumors of him being sick when he wasn't, the rumors of him being dead when he wasn't. All this thing to talk about when this man had supreme talent, elite talent, genius level talent, like talent beyond measure. And the media talked about all this other stuff. And I'm watching this, and it made me reflect and just sit back and think about it as I do this, as I talk with y'all, like, just striving to be better every day. Of course, we got to talk about music and the things that surround it, and we analyze it and how real life affects the music. But, just realizing that 9 times out of 10 times, these artists that we're talking about have talent beyond measure. And that doesn't mean put people on a pedestal or excuse wild, crazy behavior. But, he ain't deserved that. It just made, just watching the thing was like, oh man, Luther deserved better. And this was a guy whose whole career was dedicated to singing about love. I don't even know if that could exist as much anymore in this day and age when you think about back then. And that's not to say that there are definitely artists who are singing about love now, but in this generation, like an artist who every song is about loving somebody in the most beautiful way. Like, I feel like it's harder to do now. And so, praise to the ones that do it. Praise to the ones that get to do it. Praise to the ones that take on that mission to do it. You know what I'm saying? But that was it, man. I just wanted to share that with y'all. I wasn't that deep, you know what I mean? But want to make sure y'all saw it, or if y'all was interested, check it out. It doesn't matter which type of music you like. It's just a good music documentary, man. Good music knowledge. It was a good feeling. If you watch it, let me know your favorite things about Luther, your favorite songs, your favorite moments, things of that nature, man. Hit me in the comments, like, subscribe, all that. Till the next time, all right? Peace.